Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. My name is Hamish Alangaratne, and since 2023, I've been interviewing some of the most talented and well-respected quality leaders in the pharma and biotech industry to learn how they got to where they are now. This season is all about our guests and their journeys. Why they got into science, how they got into quality, their biggest challenges and greatest learns, and the highs and lows along the way. Every week, I'll be bringing you a new guest with the purpose of inspiring the next generation of quality leaders. Welcome to Season 2. I hope you enjoy the show.
Good morning, all. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Biana Torres, who is currently the Senior Director of Quality, a company called Encoded Therapeutics, a gene therapy company in California. Biana's progressed into the cell and gene therapy space, having no experience prior to joining Kite back in 2018, 2019. She's then stayed in the industry. She's incredibly passionate about it, and has progressed up through to managing the entire quality function at Encoded. So this is a really good episode. If you're young in your journey in quality leadership and looking to progress your career, Biana has some great insights into people management, building succession, and also getting into the cell and gene therapy space. So hope everyone enjoys the show. Let's get into it. Biana, welcome to Let's Talk Quality. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Yeah,
no, pleasure. Pleasure to have you on the show. We've been talking for some time, so excited to have you on, talk about your journey. Let's go straight into it. Biana, if you can give the listeners a very high-level overview of you and what your current role is.
Yeah, sure. My name is Biana Torres, and I'm currently the Senior Director of Quality Assurance at Encoded Therapeutics. It's a gene therapy company. So I've been here about a year. It's an exciting, smaller company and doing exciting stuff here.
Nice, very good. Congratulations on the role. You've been there a year now. How's it all? Have you settled in and everything's kind of falling into place for this year ahead?
Yeah, definitely. It's an exciting year ahead. We had an exciting year last year, exciting year next year, and looking forward to the future. So
very good. Let's take it back then, Biana. We like to sort of delve into people's journeys, I suppose, and I'm always interested in how people got into quality in the first place. How did you initially get into science, and then how did that career evolve into quality?
Yeah, sure. So actually, my family is immigrants, so we're from former Soviet Union, Moldova. So when I came to the U.S., it was a very, back in the day, and I think we had a very immigrant mentality of we've immigrated to the United States for you to have a better life, and we need you to be a doctor. And that was the mentality of my parents. Doctors make good money, doctors have good things. So they sort of ingrained science into me, but in an interesting way. I always loved it anyway. So in school, I really loved science. So I grew up thinking I would be a doctor. And as funny as this sounds, is when I went to college, I couldn't pass organic chemistry for the life of me. I don't know why. Maybe it was the teacher, maybe it was just me, but that class just nailed me. And back then, I don't know how it is now, but you didn't do a good grade in organic chemistry, and there went your career in getting into good medical school. So then I thought, what else can I do? And obviously I wanted to stay in science. So then I looked into, and I continued to get my master's and would do research. So really, when I was in undergrad, really they didn't talk about biotech and the different options you could have in biotech. So it was really, you go and do research or you go become a medical doctor. There was really no in between, right? And so at one point I was living in the Bay Area and I wanted to come back to LA. So I got a temporary job. And I didn't even know what this was. It was a temp job in quality at Baxter Bioscience. And I had no clue what this was. I just kind of looked it up and I said, okay, sounds good. It's my first, I was young. And that was my first entry into quality. I didn't even realize what it was. So I'm hoping nowadays that, they have better, experience. I hope colleges are now explaining the different elements of what it is. So I got into quality by accident pretty much. And I realized I actually really like it because you really are doing everything in quality. You don't just touch one element. You really touch everything. And if you think about it, quality is the basis of everything we do. We want everything to be high quality, high, making things well. So it makes sense to me, right? And you can really still understand the science and then still understand problem solving. So kind of mesh the two things. And I'd say where I really learned a lot about quality was after I was in Baxter Biosciences focusing on stability department. I got a role at a small company called One Lambda. And in small companies, you really wear multiple hats. So in this role, I would say I didn't know everything, but you had to learn it. And Google's your friend, YouTube is your friend. You could find everything out talking to people. And I learned all elements of quality, like end to end in this small company. And it got purchased by Thermo Fisher. And so going through acquisition and all of those things, I really learned about quality. And then it just moved from there, really. So
you had that bit of a blend, didn't you, from big pharma into kind of smaller, back into big and Thermo again. Probably helps quite a lot getting the infrastructure experience at a big organization, then going into a smaller organization where, like you say, you wear a lot of different hats, and the exposure that you've gained helps you in that respect.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, there's pluses and minuses to both big pharmas and small companies, right? So, and I think everybody is different, right? So you have to understand yourself and where you thrive, right? So I thrive in smaller companies. And I don't know if I would have known that had I not been in a big pharma world. And I've been in big pharma also like in Medtronic and other big companies, and also in some other small companies. But I thrive in the small pharma world where you do wear multiple hats. No day is the same. Every day is an exciting adventure and you get to learn more. So I love learning, experiencing things I don't know. And I say, oh, great, I've never seen this before. Let's go figure it out. And you don't even know what your day is going to bring. And so that's where I thrive. So that I love that, but it's not for everybody. I think you have to understand yourself and you have to understand what drives you so that you can find the right environment for you. Yeah,
no, agreed. Yeah. So Baxter was your first, was that a quality role specifically when you were at Baxter?
It was running product stability studies it was back when they were Baxter Bioscience before they got shifted and moved and, everything back then.
And then what did you love about the role? You said that you really sort of enjoyed working across the organization with different people. Is that sort of
I think
your enjoyment of it?
I would say less from Baxter, because in Baxter I was doing one role, right, which was product stability. I did get to work with many different departments in different countries. It kind of opened my eyes to different ways of doing things. But really, when I moved to One Lambda, that's where I got to wear the multiple hats and learn everything. And that's where I really understood like the end-to-end implications of quality and working with, not just operations, but also R&D and, QC and regulatory and all elements of it is where I just realized that quality gets to touch everything. And it's just, it's pretty exciting.
So what level were you when you were at that, was it One Lambda, did you say? What level position were you?
It was called the quality engineer. I don't, it was a small, it was a small role at that point. No, I wasn't in a leadership role at that point. Yeah.
Fine. So you got,
I mean, I wasn't in a people leadership role, right?
Leadership role, Yeah. Because you're right. Like quality sits across the organization, right? As you say, you get to communicate with everyone across the organization. Would you say that you were sort of you naturally liked that opportunity to talk to different stakeholders? Would you say you were quite inquisitive when you started that role?
Yeah. I like to learn, and I think I have that science brain in me, but I think, for me, I didn't want to be on the bench all the time. So this was a way for me to still keep, the science part of my brain is I don't just, how to put it. I have found that, for me, I don't just read a regulation or read a complaint, say, okay, we have to do and that's it, right? I like to learn, understand the why, understand what they're doing, really understand the science of what each company I'm in does so that I can really speak to everybody and understand what they're doing in the operation. So I try to understand how everything works so that when I'm speaking to someone, I can know where they're coming from. I may not be an expert, right? They're the expert, but at least I have a baseline understanding. So I'm not coming from it from an area of like, well, I don't get it at all, right? And if I don't understand something, I'll ask the questions and learn. Like I'm not one of those people that has to pretend like I know just because you're in a leadership role. And I think that, making sure that you're humble enough to say, what do you know? What do you don't know? And how do you get that knowledge?
Do you think you've always been like that from your early days? You're always inquisitive and you didn't have a problem with you were okay with maybe not knowing the answers to specific things, and you were okay for asking for help from people?
I think I always was. I think what's shifted in my career is my confidence to be okay saying I don't know. And I don't know if that's more of a confidence factor in me or just the industry has shifted. I remember when I was younger, people would say, you always have to, that fake it till you make it. So pretend like mentality. But I don't think faking it means you have to pretend like you know everything, right? So I think that mentality sort of has shifted over time, right? Where when I was younger, I remember leaders would be like, well, you have to pretend like you know everything. And if you go into a room and you act like you know everything, then you're a good leader, right? And I've seen the shift in leadership perspective to be more, a good leader actually brings out the best in others and brings them to the table and understands what they know, don't know, and is able to get the right answer and able to have that conversation. And so I've seen not just a shift in, so I think combination of confidence in myself and a combination of the industry understanding what is a good leader, I think has shifted since the beginning of my career to now.
And when and how did your career evolve into a leadership role?
I'm trying to remember exactly when. I guess over time. Well, and I think
because you were
my leadership.
You were at Kite, weren't you, for some time, and that was a leadership role.
Yeah, I had a leadership, and Kite also switched, I think, my whole passion in the science industry in general. So when I was at Kite, it was my first cell and gene therapy company, and that's it. Like, I'm not leaving the cell and gene therapy space. I say this now, but who knows what my career will take me. But I mean, really, cell and gene therapy is where my passion is. But in Kite was interesting because, I started as a leader with in person, right? And COVID happened when I was in Kite. And so I switched to actually doing remote leadership. So it was interesting having the leadership in person and then switching to remote leadership roles. And I think one of the things that I also had a good leader at Kite, and that's where I sort of shifted my mentality as a leader, I would say. When I was there, he encouraged me and he supported me, and I ended up getting a really good mentor, coach, actually. And this coach really encouraged me to look internal and say, not only how do I want to be viewed, how do I want people to see me, where are my values, and what am I willing to give and not give, right, as a leader? So where are you willing to hold the line and say, okay, I'm not going to move up in my career path because I have these values and I have this and that, and just how to look at other people. So it's shifted my whole leadership mentality and style.
So was Kite your first actual people management, people leadership role?
No, I had kind of indirect people leadership before Kite, but I'd say it's more my main one. Yeah.
Your main one. Fine. Okay. So you were, and so you went into the cell and gene therapy space, which would have been sort of 2019 time.
I think so. Something like that.
Around that sort of time, still relatively, what we're talking about 5 years ago. A lot's changed in the cell and gene therapy space in the last 5 years. But how did that kind of early days in going into a new modality where you didn't have experience in, combine that with building a team and leading a team, combined with what Kite were going through at that time, then you throw COVID into the mix. Like, how, you must look back at that time with great sort of fondness and almost think was that really a pivotal stage in your career, do you feel?
I think so. I think it changed a lot of things in many different ways. I mean, I think that when I explain this, it's a combination of things. This all came into play. Like, I had a good supportive leader. I love the people I worked with at Kite. I love what we were doing. I mean, just something so simple as, before it was like, okay, no, you have to close out deviations. And I remember being at a company where, we had back order of our product and we couldn't get it because we had to go through all the red tape and get everything done. And it took so long. And, people were sitting here saying, like, I need this. Like, it's impacting me. But no, you can't do anything because, you have to clear some paperwork that's really not impacting the product safety. And at Kite, these are people who were end of life and they needed their treatment. It was an autologous product. And, the FDA worked with you to say, you know what, we're not going to make someone potentially pass away because you have some paperwork to do. Let's understand that whatever you're giving them is safe, it's impacting the patient, and then clear up your paperwork and solve it for the next time. Right. Yeah. So just having that mentality that you can get product to patient smartly, I'd never seen that before. So that sort of changed my way of thinking as a quality person, where it wasn't like, okay, well, you have to do everything by the book. It doesn't matter. And we'll figure it out later. I mean, thinking patient first, right? And we always say patient first, but this was, I think, the first time I really saw where patient really was first, right? And I think it's the shift, not just at Kite, it was the industry shift, right? It was the regulators shift. Everyone just understand, like, really, we're not just putting out paper patient first, we're doing patient first.
Yes. Yeah. And just going back, I guess, were you intending, like, how much did you know about the cell and gene therapy space? And was that a strategic move from your career perspective to try and go to Kite? Because a lot of people are wanting to go into the CGT space, but they don't have the experience. And it's a bit more
it was kind of funny, right? Because it was a strategic move, and I did try to get into Kite several times, and I would be told, oh, you don't have cell and gene therapy experience, so we won't interview. Like, recruiters wouldn't even put me past the door. And then by chance, it was kind of odd because I was actually getting married and I had my resume somewhere that I forgot, and I was too busy with planning a wedding. And I got an email about a role. I didn't even know it was a Kite. And I was like, oh, this sounds good, right? And I talked to them, and then I said, look, I can't deal with this right now. I'm getting married. So I got married and I planned my honeymoon about a month later. So in that time period, I said, okay, I'll go and I'll have this interview. So I went and did the interview. And even at the interview, I said, well, I'm going on my honeymoon. And let me be honest with you, I'm not going to check any messages. It's, so whatever. Yeah. And then I ended up just by chance kind of, the recruiter who found me was really helpful. We're still close to this day. And that's how I got in by chance when I wasn't even looking to get into Kite. That's how I got into Kite. So, you never know what'll happen in life.
No, that's it. Yeah. It's often those sort of chance kind of scenarios which just crop up, and it was obviously meant to be. So like, I guess, as I said, a lot of people want to go into the cell and gene therapy space, but they might not have that experience. Is there anything that you sort of advice-wise that you would say to people who aren't in that space? Because there are two, I find there are different thoughts on this. It's like companies, they may want people that have cell and gene therapy experience or whatever it may be. There are some people or hiring managers or companies that look for more attitude-based or competency-based skills. First question is, what's your thoughts on going into that cell and gene therapy space? Is it a combination of mindset and experience, or would you lean one of those over the other? And then my second question would be, what advice would you give to people that want to go into that field that don't have the experience?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things I learned about in cell and gene therapy is you have to think a little bit different and think outside the box. So you can't take your small molecule. You can take that experience and learn from it, but you can't be like, I did this in a small molecule company, so you have to do it this way in cell and gene therapy. So having that open mindset to say, here's my transferable skills, and then I'm going to be willing and open to adapt them to a new environment that I maybe didn't know about. And nowadays, there are a lot of regulations that FDA and EMA and such have put out. So taking that time to read them, understand them, and look up things ahead of time. So you're not walking into there with the blind knowledge of what is cell and gene therapy. So I think that you have that. And so I guess it depends where you are in your career. If you're really early out of college, a lot of companies, even, some like Kite and other people have rotation programs. So if you could get into an internship or rotation program at a cell and gene therapy company, not only is it good to get you into the company and have the experience, but also you could, experience the different departments, right? So what is quality, what is operations, what is supply chain, what is regulatory, et cetera, right? So really understanding what makes sense, where do you fit, what do you want to do? If you're a little bit later in your career, then really understanding what are my transferable skills, right? Yeah. What does this person mean? Like, look at a resume, look at their job description, and a lot of it is the same. A kappa is a kappa, but what are my transferable skills? How can I take that and really take it across the industries? Because I've also worked in medical device, and I'd say, my background is not there. So how can I take my transferable skills and move them where I go? Because really, a lot of this ultimately at the core is the same, but and how you're open to learning about the new industry. So taking that, you can learn ahead of time some basic things and then knowing what questions to ask.
Do you think there's a big mindset shift when you go from traditional, say, small molecule into this sort of space?
I think so. You have to be, it's a bit different, you're nothing, you know, each lot is different. Everything is, you know, especially if you're going to something where your starting material comes from a person, whether healthy donor or patient, it's not going to be the same. People are different. So whether you get their cells today or tomorrow, it's going to have slight differences, and that ambiguity of difference, having to understand that difference and having to understand patient first and the different regulations are changing. We're learning on a daily basis, and being able to adapt and learn quickly and understand and not be so not be so strict when you have to. So ultimately keeping the patient in mind. So understanding what you know and learning, consistently learning. So.
Yeah, very good. So since Kite, you were there for 3 or 4 years, if that's right, and then you've now progressed 4 years. You've progressed into director, head of quality roles. You've also had some time in the CDMO space. How do you think you, as a leader, how has your leadership career evolved over the last 5 years, I guess, since joining Kite to where you are now? And how do you think quality as an industry has evolved?
All right, so I'll start with my leadership. So I think I've changed in the sense that I guess, just I'm always learning. So I don't even know if I'm still learning today, right? So I think being a little bit less hard on myself as a leader, maybe. Like I've tried to always, my style of leadership is very much like mentoring, coaching, and really trying to be there for each individual person underneath me. And I don't know if I'm perfect at it yet, but I really try to understand each person and what they need from a leader and adapt myself with each person so that I can try to make them successful. So less about me and more about them. And then, so that's in terms of my direct leader, actually, even direct or even people that aren't directly underneath me. I try to understand each person I'm working with and how do I need to adapt myself to work with them so that we're all successful. And I don't know if I'm perfect at it still, right? Sometimes I say, oh, probably shouldn't have said that, but just really being humble and understanding and learning, consistently learning how to be a better leader as opposed to a better boss, right? How to make them successful. And then, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I suppose,
how's quality evolved?
Yeah. How's quality evolved in that time?
So for me, quality's evolved in the sense that, early in my career, I think quality was a police officer. That's how I saw it, and that's how most people saw us, is you don't tell quality, they're going to get us in trouble, they're going to write you up for deviations, they're going to do this to that. And I've seen it evolve in my career as quality is now a partner. And we aren't there to, try to stop everything. So quality as a group is a partner. Quality as a mindset is for everybody. And that I've seen has evolved in the industry, and really thinking the whole mentality of quality by design, whether it always works or not, right? Because you have to have a good amount of knowledge to really be able to put quality by design in the beginning. But just that mentality that quality needs to be in there at the beginning to make sure everything is done right. Because ultimately it's the patient in mind. If you think about it, any drug, whether it's a gene therapy, an Advil or Tylenol, it doesn't matter, right? You're going to give it to one of yourself, a loved one, your child, and you want to make sure it's the best quality and that itself isn't going to harm them any worse than they were. And I think that mindset is true for everybody in the industry.
Yeah. And why do you think it is that? Because I agree that the mindset shift has changed in terms of seeing quality as, the police as they have been previously called. But what do you think has driven that change over the last decade or however long it has been?
Maybe just the people realizing that, if we work together, we can be better for the patient. Back to what I was saying, right? You always said, quality is about making sure the patient is you're doing everything for the patient. But a lot of times it's on paper, right? You sit there, you write this down, you go and you do your work and you forget about what's happening. But I think bringing the patient in to everywhere I've been where they bring the patients in, and we've become much more, and maybe with social media and everything, we're much more aware of our environment and people and really bringing the patient to the forefront. And that's that whole shift to say, what's the purpose? Why are we doing everything that we're doing? Understanding the why. We're not just in there just, filling out some paperwork to do a job, right? Really getting the end result of it. And then that shift to say, oh, if we work together, we can solve some things and maybe save us some headache later on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you strike me as someone who's very, very much. You care about the individuals that work for you. You're very much aligned to helping them progress in their careers. You mentioned earlier that you had good leadership and you had a good coach or mentor. Do you think that we're in the process of creating a mentor scheme, for example, for people that are manager level, maybe associate director level, to be mentored and by senior leaders who to train them on the sort of mainly the softer skills in terms of leadership. Do you think that there is a kind of a gap in terms of the leadership traits coming through from the industry in terms of this is the new kind of class of leaders in quality. These are the skills that they require to work collaboratively across the organization. Do you think there's a gap in that sort of those softer skills from people coming through?
It depends where you're at, So some people have it. It's back to, it depends what your organization is. Some organizations aren't looking for those softer skills. So that's why you have to understand, back to what my coach was telling me back then, what are your values and where do you want to be? And different companies have the different values. So you have to figure out where to go. So I am pretty impressed with where we're going as an industry. I would say it's not something that's like a clear cut. You could take a class and boom, you've got it, right? It's a lot of like trial and error. So I wouldn't say I'm perfect yet. There's moments where I'm like, oh, tried that didn't work. Okay, I need to do something else. So really being humble and understanding that we're all human beings and we all try things and we all are different, right? So me doing something with you might work, right? Now I go and turn to another person and, oh, that didn't work out so well. Okay, now you got to understand that person and understand where their likes and so really just being humble and understanding we're all people and even if it worked today, you might have a bad day tomorrow. So really understanding and working with them with empathy. So
kind of a bigger question, but like how do you kind of go about building succession into your teams and for you to sort of people that are at your level to progress, you obviously need to progress in other people's careers and build leadership underneath you. Is that something that you're sort of working through at the moment? And how would you, I guess, go about trying to create future leaders in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I guess really giving them, I actually tell my team, I believe in you. It's really simple, but you believe in them. Say, what do you think? What do you want to do? And understanding as a leader that your way and how, I've done it doesn't mean it's the only way, right? So being able to kind of give up a little bit okay. And, that I think was a little bit hard for me sometimes because I have this vision and I'm I want to get things done. And sometimes saying, okay, well, maybe it's going to take a little bit longer to get done, but I want this person to learn. And maybe they're not doing it exactly how I would do it. And maybe the outcome won't be exactly how I'm thinking, but you know what? Let's see, right? Let's let them go. Let's let them do it. Let's step back a little and let's see what happens, right? And if it's not perfect, okay, great. No worries. Let's learn and let's figure it out. And even as a leader, that took me a moment to kind of figure out because I wanted to get things done, solved, and move on to the next problem. So I think, taking a step back and letting people evolve and grow and talking them through okay, what do you think went wrong here? How can we do it better next time? What do you think? And giving them tools. So sometimes people don't know where to look. So I'm saying, okay, there's this area, there's ISP, PDA, Bioform, etc. There's all these areas where you could go and learn and pick up something or say if they're interested in something, finding that start for them to grow, even if it means they leave you, it's okay. Like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's great. Good outlook. I'm going to get into some quickfire questions shortly, Biana. But I guess just looking back at your career now, and obviously got some more milestones and achievements to get through. But when you look back at your career, what do you feel most proud of?
I guess just really just working with some amazing people and having, really putting the patient first and how we really did everything, we can to make sure the patients are getting treatment and to make sure the patients are getting what they need. to get a better quality of life.
Very good. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you some quick-fire questions, Biana, to cap off the discussion. My first question would be, what are the 3 most important values that you live and die by?
I guess treating everyone with empathy and respect. Like, you really don't know what anyone's going through, so always remembering to treat them with empathy and respect. Honesty and being true to your word. Do what you say. Don't make up things. And then really just continuing to learn and improve, right? No one knows everything, and I always love to read things and learn, whether it's for work or personal. Just continue. That's my 3 things, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Who's been the biggest inspiration in your life? And that could be professionally or personally.
I would say my son. He's 5.5, as you would say, not 5. Really, he's just taught me patience, resilience, and just trying to remember that being a better person every day.
Very good. Final question. What one piece of advice would you give to future quality leaders?
I guess always understanding, the why behind everything you do, and not being afraid to, think outside the box, right? A lot of times quality says, we have to follow this regulation, do X, Y, Z, and that's it. But, a lot of times they're guidances and they're not so clear cut. So really understanding the why and understanding, not being afraid to kind of push back or think outside the box.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ben. I think that's been a really good conversation, and I'm sure a lot of people that are, going through their leadership journey will take some inspiration and value from that conversation. I'd imagine if people want to reach out to you, is LinkedIn generally the best way?
Yeah, definitely reach out LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn or connect with me. Great.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time.
No, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Take care. Thanks, Biana.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's show. I hope that you got value from it, whether you're starting your career in quality or if you're at the top of your field. Today's episode was brought to you by RX Group. I'm the founder of RX Group. We are a pharma and biotech recruitment organization focusing purely on quality assurance. We recruit consultants and senior level permanent quality professionals into the pharma and biotech industry. If we can support you, whether that be in a hiring capacity or if you yourself are looking for work, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn, visit our LinkedIn page where you can subscribe to the podcast, and visit our website, www.rx-group.io, to find out more about us. See you soon.